Welcome back, everyone. We're suspending our high school rally show to cover some breaking news taking place right now on Washington Avenue in Minneapolis in front of the Canopy Hotel, where there's a disturbance and a lot of activity involving police now.
Yeah, our Connor White is actually out there, and Connor, it looks like State Patrol is now out trying to kind of corral people.
Aaron, Frank, State Patrol and Minneapolis Police. The Minneapolis Police Department just gave an order over the loudspeaker saying that this is an unlawful assembly. They're asking people to clear the area now. Now, this is that protest that we brought you to at the top of the 10 o'clock hour. It is the noise protest at the Canopy Hotel. And as you can hear behind me, people are still making a lot of noise. They were originally here because they wanted to make life difficult for ICE agents that they believed are sleeping at the Canopy Hotel tonight. Now, we've seen police as well as state troopers staged in riot gear on either ends of this street. There was some confrontation between protesters and officers where there was a lot of verbal confrontation, I should say. I haven't seen any physical contact between the two just yet. A lot of people have dispersed, it seems, or at least spread out. There were a lot more people here as recently as half an hour ago. But I will say, as you can see behind me, there are still people here. There are still people here despite the order for everyone to clear out. So Aaron, Frank will continue to bring details as this develops, but so far the peace has been kept insofar as no physical conflicts between officers and protesters.
Hey, Connor, a couple of questions if you can hear us. Can you quantify a lot, like how many people were there at the peak of it? And also, what time did it start? You know, I mean, it's 10:35 right now. Someone's staying at that hotel. I'm sure while they may be sympathetic, they're probably a little upset. But has this been going on since 8 in the evening or only 10 o'clock? So how many people and how long has it been happening?
Well, Frank, it started at around 7 o'clock. At least that was the schedule. And there were hundreds of people here, at least enough to completely fill this block shoulder to shoulder. We're going to bring the camera around here as state troopers are now moving in a little bit to congest the area. Yeah, there were hundreds of people here a little while ago. I'm going to step out of the way as state police come through here. They want people out of the intersection. And they are holding the line just here. So they are tightening the perimeter. We have state troopers here on the other side of the street. That appears to be Minneapolis police. You can see through there that vehicles are blocking off passage down the road. So right here, this really is the bulk of the people that are still here. At least, I'd say, at least 3-4 dozen, perhaps a bit more if you include those on the sidewalk continuing to make noise here. But again, that crowd has dissipated. As we have seen earlier, there were hundreds marching through the streets as well.
Are these folks confident that ICE agents are staying at the hotel?
That's the intel that they have. That's the reason why they're out here. The sole reason they are out here tonight, Frank and Aaron, is to make noise because they believe that ICE are staying in that hotel. We've seen protests like this throughout different parts of Minnesota, really since ICE activity began to ramp up back in November after some activity over the summer. So we've seen this tactic before from various groups. This is probably the largest that I personally have seen. Of course, it being a Friday night, a relatively mild Friday night as far as January in Minnesota goes, that would have been a factor in bringing a lot more people out to this downtown area.
And so, Connor, they're asking people to clear out, declaring it an unlawful assembly. Any intel into the timeline there or what makes it unlawful at this point?
I would assume the unlawful side comes from we're not sure whether or not a permit was required for this number of people to be here, but we have seen at certain points throughout the night that this intersection, other stretches of this road, Washington 3rd, have been shut off, or motorists have had to maneuver their way around people that were in the street. So that could play a factor here. We also know around the other side of the canopy, towards a parking garage or a ramp, that some people seem to have opened a door on the side of the hotel. It's unclear whether or not you could say that they were inside, so to speak, but a door was open, people were moving in, and one of our crew members did see an object was thrown at the hotel about an hour ago. Nothing broke, no windows shattered, but that may have played into possibly more 911 calls that brought out the police presence that you now see behind us.
odd thing too is that I remember your reporting earlier. You said this started at 7, but there weren't any police or state troopers there until about the last 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, they just let those people make racket there for 3.5 hours. Correct? There were no police.
Not that I could see. Again, they were marching in different parts of the city, so there were likely police monitoring that situation. But in terms of this kind of police presence with riot gear, batons, really people at the ready for a possible conflict here, no, nothing of that kind.
Connor, if you can still hear us, Frank, we've been reporting that obviously the governor readied the National Guard. And so we're assuming, Connor, you're not seeing anything like that, any National Guard presence there, just MPD and Minnesota State Patrol?
No. At the moment, it looks like State Patrol. It looks like Minneapolis Police. I am seeing down the block, it looks like there's potentially a Hennepin County Sheriff's Office vehicle, but no presence of the National Guard or any federal law enforcement at this time.
Yeah. Connor, this is kind of a weird thing, but if for some reason we lose your audio, see if you guys can keep shooting so we have a picture of what's going on, but hopefully that's not an issue. But, some context around that, on the same day that he not called out the National Guard, the governor also put out an issue from, the Safety Management Center in Blaine, more state troopers here as well. So those state troopers are available. Those state troopers have been ready, for the last 2 days, and the National Guard is staged and ready. That would take, of course, a governor's executive state order to get them out there. Yeah. But they are ready. But to see that many state troopers appear on short notice like that, based on what they told us from a public safety standpoint on Wednesday, isn't surprising. And it looks like at some point, have you talked to any police officers, Connor, or any authorities about why they've decided to come out now as opposed to earlier? Is it just because it's getting later in the night, or was it more disruptive, or was it a little more violent, or
maybe blocking the roadway?
Any impetus for it?
I haven't heard anything specific just yet. When Minneapolis police were here, as I said, they began speaking over the megaphone, a loud horn from one of their vehicles, instructing people that this was an unlawful assembly and they needed to go home. We can try to get a bit more information as the night goes on as to what specifically brought people out here tonight. But at the moment, state troopers don't seem interested in speaking. If we point the camera down here a little bit, we can see that people are beginning to move up the road. Let's see. This is the intersection with Park Avenue. People are moving down the road, so it does look like the crowd is beginning to thin a little bit here, but clearly not everybody. Some people are staying put.
Yeah, and it sounds like the ones that are staying put are just continuing to make noise from what we can hear.
Just making noise. I mean, I can show you right here. Some people have proper instruments. Other people really are improvising with whatever's around them to try to make noise. So that effort has not been given up. We're seeing drumsticks on pots and pans. We're seeing other people with proper instruments. As I said, we have a drum set here in the middle of the road. He seems to be one of the group that is determined to stay for a while. But beyond him, you can really see the might that law enforcement have come in with here. Everyone is really geared up for a potential problem here, and I don't know if you can see beyond that, but there are a number of different law enforcement vehicles, Frank and Aaron.
Yeah, we can see the flashing lights in the background. Hey, Connor, just from like a decibel level, I mean, it's loud for you, but if you're staying on the 4th floor of the Canopy Hotel, could you hear this?
Oh, you'd hear it.
Okay.
Absolutely. The context for that, obviously, we didn't get up to the 4th floor, but when we were on our way here earlier in the night, we could hear this far before we could see it. It was very, very loud, especially with the larger number of people that were here.
For the people who are still out there, Connor, what do you think the unifying message is for that group? As you talk to people, as you see maybe what they're expressing, saying?
Well, since everyone was moved to this intersection, I haven't heard too much of a ringleader or anyone describing actions, but when law enforcement did first arrive and people were getting up in each other's faces, there were a number of people on the protesting side calling out to keep things peaceful. They didn't want to give anyone any excuse to begin instigating anything else or to begin taking people into custody. That's another point here. We haven't seen any arrests just yet. At least I haven't seen them with my own eyes as we've been coming up and down the block. So there have been calls for peace, and some people have helped urge others to go home as well as things begin to wrap up, at least to a degree, with the larger crowds that are here.
You talk about a call for peace, that kind of goes a little bit to what Governor Walz and the Public Safety Commissioner said on Wednesday. Don't get baited. Don't give the federal government an excuse to come in and do something. Don't turn violent. Don't let these protests elevate to a level where you could see a federalized National Guard. So I know there's been a lot of restraint. This is probably the most disruptive, although be it not violent, thing that we've seen so far heading into a Friday night. And of course, this affects traffic. This affects other people that are at the hotel. I know that's meaningless for people who are looking at a bigger cause, but it has an effect on other people's lives.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering, what makes it an unlawful assembly? Again, the governor, the safety officials, blocking a roadway is something they said they don't want to see. They want emergency vehicles to be able to get through.
I'd imagine the fact that it's extraordinarily loud and it's coming up on 10:45 at night has got to be part of it as well, right? Hey, Connor, as I look up Park Avenue,
but it does look like there's starting to be some activity with police beginning to move in, again, constricting their perimeter on this section. And it looks like an armored vehicle as well with its lights on is starting to come down. So they're continuing to tighten around this area that we're standing in now. And to give you a bit of a look, there's not many civilians still here. I count, at least in the intersection, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's about 7 or 8 people in what you would define as the intersection here. Others have begun to move further down the block.
Yeah, and from what I can see, Connor, Washington goes north and south, and there's officers at the north end, there's officers at the south end. Park goes east and west. I can see officers on one end of Park. It looks like they're giving them an escape route out of that other side of Park. But I'd imagine if those people don't take it, they'll just continue, it looks like, to shrink that down, and maybe there'll be some arrests, maybe there won't. I don't know. That's why we're covering it to see what happens.
Yes, that seems to be the plan. There's state troopers here on this side of the camera. There's Minneapolis police and others standing over here. And this other end of the intersection. Oh, listen here. All right, so I'm not sure how well you could hear that, but again, this is officers getting on the loudspeaker, again, describing this being an unlawful assembly and an issue to do with being a public nuisance under Minnesota state law. So they are reiterating those orders to clear out of the area. And Frank, as you pointed out, the escape route, so to speak, is moving down this way, looks like east of Park Avenue.
Yeah, it would be east, and that would be towards the river. That's the way it looks like the route out. I mean, you can't go north, you can't go south, you can't go west back towards US Bank Stadium. They've only got one way to go. But Connor, are people heeding that? It looks like the crowd's thinning out. Are there fewer people there on announcement number 2 and 3 now?
There are definitely fewer people. We have at least a handful that are still here. Again, there's this gentleman with the drums set right in the middle of the road and a few other stragglers. But for the most part, people seem to be moving down the street, although a little further down east, it does seem that some people have continued to gather a little bit, if nothing else from where I can see, to make their voices heard and express that they're upset with the fact that law enforcement are now involved.
How big of a group, Connor, do you think was in that group that sort of exited the law enforcement perimeter you are now in?
Well, at the moment, all I can see are hands and signs, Aaron, effectively. So it doesn't look like too significant of a count, but there are some people that have gone beyond a makeshift police barrier that's been set up and are continuing to stay put for at least a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
And we're now seeing we're Sorry, Frank. We're seeing some significant movement. We might have caught it just there, where law enforcement moved down the alleyway, heading east in some fairly significant speed and numbers. So there might be another issue for them as they see it further down the block.
Yeah, I was going to say, we might have our producer pull up some video from earlier in the evening, like at 10 o'clock, and then we can give people some perspective, because this looks like a much more mellow scene just over the course of the last 15 minutes, and a dramatically different scene than it was at 10 o'clock when they looked like there were hundreds of people there, Aaron,
hundreds
and it
of
was
people
really loud.
Making some noise, like you said, Connor, lots of instruments, but that, to your point, was not confrontational, not a huge police presence at that point in the night. This is relatively new.
Yes, the police presence is relatively new. Again, we don't know for sure, but the tipping point from a law enforcement perspective might have been, here are some people that are clearing out here, the tipping point might have been that there were doors open on the side of the Canopy Hotel where people were protesting. It seemed like there was a bit of an atrium to then actually be physically inside the hotel. It looked like a side entrance where you might have staff or garbage taken out, that sort of thing, not where a guest would come in. Again, it's unclear whether or not they actually then had unfettered access to any other part of the hotel, but that could have been the tipping point given that a door was physically open.
Yeah, and I have to imagine there's just got to be a heightened sense of trying to make sure that if there are ICE officers staying at that Canopy Hotel, that there's not a lot of contact with them and some of these people who are protesting, and some who, emotions are running high. It's been a really difficult week for a lot of people here. So why light the fuse, right? Try to keep them separated. So, Connor, stay there.
Absolutely.
We're going to just roll a little bit of video right now, but if something dramatic happens.
How we got to this point, right?
Yeah, so this was earlier in the evening, at 10 o'clock in the evening, and you can see a dramatic difference between what we just showed you of where Connor is now live and how many people were there earlier in the evening. If you're just tuning in, this is in front of the Canopy Hotel. It's on Washington Avenue in Minneapolis, near a park. Chicago Avenue is one block up. This is not far from the Guthrie if you've been down and driven through that area. The river's just a few blocks east. But there were a lot of people who believed that ICE agents were staying at this Canopy Hotel, and they wanted to disrupt their life and make it difficult for them and make a lot of noise.
Yeah, and this is not a new thing, Frank. People have been doing this, in different suburbs and around the Twin Cities, around the country. So this is sort of a little trend that we've seen. Certainly this is the largest that we've seen in Minneapolis this late at night. With this many officers and, State Patrol, MPD, and what looked like some militarized vehicles or SWAT vehicles coming out and trying to clear people, tell them it's unlawful assembly and that they need to go home. You're looking at video. This is from earlier tonight around 10. Connor White's on the ground there. Crowds are dispersing, moving, but so are State Patrol troopers, and so we'll continue to monitor that for you.
Connor, the video that we showed from the chopper is just so dramatically different to compare to what we're there live as we come out to you again showing. I mean, it looks like we've got, drummer guy in the middle of the intersection. It appears to me like he's surrounded at this point. Is he the last guy there?
Just about, Frank. I would say that the way that you described it, the images that we got from the chopper and what we're looking at right now, very different, but striking in their own ways. I mean, you have dozens upon dozens of law enforcement officers in riot gear around here, with this lone person now joined by one other person here, continuing to stay here despite that order to disperse. We're continuing to see a little bit of action further east. We'll continue to have updates as they come, Frank. Aaron.
Yeah, well, we'll have a wrap in the morning. I guess if there's a good side, not a big conflict. Hopefully the protesters feel they got to exercise their First Amendment rights, and police don't have to get in a lot of conflict with people. So maybe a good resolution. Connor, thank you. We'll look for you get back to us if more things happen, and if not, we have a lot of reporting that'll start tomorrow at 8 a.m.
Yeah, we appreciate you watching. Look for continuing coverage on our streaming service and on TV.